just a few minutes, but I wanted to hop on, go live, and just kind of talk about what's going on and how I'm feeling. So, with everything that's going on in the world, the first thing is the freedom of speech. So, I understand that when the First Amendment was created, the first set of amendments, really, people who look like me, we were not factored into that. However, under the 14th Amendment, and that amendment deals with like birthright citizenship and things like that. Um, that's how, like, historically, those in my lineage became citizens here of these United States. And so that is very important for me. However, like, I have all my passports, my family, all of us have our passports and things in case, there's any kind of shenanigans. I don't put anything past people who have a perspective that this is their land and only their land, because in a very real sense, at this point, America belongs to everybody who's here. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole whether you're here legally, illegally, all of that. There's some controversy around that because there are people who are here and they got here on various visas, and I think that process is what it is. However, they stayed here once their visas expired or whatever their, however they were permitted to come here. That has since expired, and so that's a whole different issue. What I'm talking about or referring to is those of us who were born here, who have been here, who have, our family history is here. This is where we belong. I'm an American. And so I have access to all rights and privileges as an American. And so I'm bringing that forth because freedom of speech is everything. It's everything. And so when one is allowed to use their voice, in a way that is constructive. And I know some of these words people like to give different definitions to, but we know when we, in our spirit, in the deepness of who we are, we know when we are using language that brings all people together. And we know when we're using language that can be exclusive. And I will stand for those to have the right to have a voice that is different, have a perspective that is different from mine. That's why we're here. That's what freedom of speech means. Now, with that, there are consequences for freedoms and language and what is said. We all have consequences to what we say. If what we say is unification, the consequence of that will be unity. If our words and our language and what we are saying is divisive, meaning it does not unify all or the majority, that's going to have consequences as well. So our voice is what we have as Americans, as citizens. That's what we have. And we want to use our voice responsibly. Additionally, I was always brought up to understand or with a foundation that the United States was built on Christian principles. And so, as one who grew up in the Baptist church, I grew up in the Baptist church and going to Vacation Bible School and, reading the teachings of Jesus, I understand that. Now, what I also understand today is that religion in this country has a propensity, the ability to be used as a weapon. People are using Christianity as a rationale to not do what's right, which goes against the teachings. So if in your religion, your understanding, if again, that is not unifying everybody, then that's not a good thing. And that's not being responsible with religion. And so to unify, to bring people together, to have freedom of speech, that's very important, and everybody has that right to care or to not care. And either of those should not infringe. So my caring should not infringe on one's not caring. And one's not caring should not infringe on one's caring. That's what it's about. That's why you have that freedom to be, do, say what you want, when you want, and even how you want. But again, there are consequences to that. And so I know that for me, I am doing a lot of introspection. I am doing a great deal of auditing what my beliefs, what I was taught about my beliefs, and auditing them for continuity. And when I say continuity, I mean what my belief is should be applicable and should align with those others who believe like me. And then again, those who don't believe like me, that's fine. However, that disbelief or unalignment or out of sync or non-matching should not infringe on my ability for well-being or for peace, just like mine shouldn't, because I am not a Bible thumper. And again, I'm auditing. Someone asked me the other day, well, do you consider yourself a Christian? I consider myself the Christian that I grew up with in Vacation Bible School. That's the Christian that I am, the Vacation Bible School Christian. Whatever this new, I don't even know if say it's new, but whatever this emerging or re-emerging aspect is, I'm not in alignment with that, because things should be bringing people together in a positive way. Like, we have it so good over here in America, and people keep talking about people wanting to come over here and taking this and taking that. But the access is here for everybody. For everybody. And I'll say my family, nobody gave us anything. Nobody. Therefore, me, my family, we didn't have the opportunity to take from anybody. We worked for everything we have. We went to school. We paid for college. I paid for college. I got student loans, and I paid for them. Still paying on them, because I went into education. And I went into education because that's where I was drawn. I was drawn into education because I like teaching, I like learning, and I also like sharing what I learned. So nobody gave me anything. Nobody gave because my family, we didn't play that. We didn't play that. And there's things there. There's access for things. But my family was like, you work. You can work. You're okay. Work hard. Go to school. The unfortunate thing is that for some, meritocracy, that means when you work for something, you get what you work for. That is not, that doesn't always fare well for everybody. But for me, my family, it did. We worked. I went to college, got my degree, went into the workforce, taught school, wanted a little bit more, went back to school, got my master's degree. Thought about going into a doctoral program because I love learning. But after my master's degree, I realized that I'm paying for the same thing that like others, my uncles and all of them who went into education and they have their masters and some of them have their doctoral degrees. I'm learning the exact same things that they're learning, and I'm paying more at the college level. So that's a whole thing. So yeah, my family, we've never done that. We've never taken and been on the system. My father didn't even want my brother to go into the military. Not because he didn't want him to go into battle or whatever, but my father had a perspective that when you're in the military, that's a form of government assistance. That's his perspective. And he has the right to think that way. He's gone on to be with the Lord now. But he was, and it was like, okay, if that's how you want to believe, that's how you want to believe. But my brother went on and went to the military, and he worked and he did well, and that kind of a thing. But everybody has the opportunity to be, do, or have whatever they want. Nobody's taking anything from anybody. Everybody has the opportunity to have babies. You want to have a baby? Have a baby. Now, if your body is such that you're not able to have a body, that's something different. And there are other avenues and other ways for you to be able to have a baby. And that have a baby is very broad. Do you want to do infertility treatment? That's your choice. Do you want to adopt? That's your choice. But everybody in the great US of A can be, do, or have whatever they want. Nobody's stopping you. Well, and they're trying. They're trying. And when I say they, this administration is trying to stop everybody from having access. And really, the really sad thing about what's happening is that this has neighbor against neighbor, and it really shouldn't be. It's these CEOs. That's where the problem is. It's the rich, the uber ultra rich, the rich that you'll never see them because they are on such a level that you'll never be impacted. I mean, like, see them, interface with them. But yet it's manifesting, showing itself as brother against sister, neighbor against neighbor, especially where I am in my little middle class neighborhood. It makes no sense. It's the CEOs against everybody else, and everybody else, that's us, all us regular people. We need to figure that out. Yep, we need to figure it out. Well, that's all I got for today. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on where I feel about First Amendment rights. I am from Texas. Yep, from Texas. Very red state too. Like, but although I'm from Texas, I do what I need to do for me and for my family. Where are you from? But anyway, those are just my thoughts for today. Everybody take care of yourselves. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So I'm sure I don't know much about what goes on overseas. I will be 100% transparent that I don't know anything about the systems over there. I hear things, but I would prefer to like read and know and understand for myself. But anyway, so be safe wherever you are. Hi, Lele. What's up with you? Just sharing thoughts on being, doing, and having whatever we want. Kindness, access. Like my word of the day, I think, is access. That's the word that that I'm thinking about. I'm good today. I'm in a place of contemplation, just thinking about everything that's kind of going on here in Texas. But I'm good. And I think in general people are good. I think here in Texas, those who say they are not good, there is a mind shift there. Because we have access to anything. I'm in Dallas area. And there's so many opportunities in Texas and in Dallas. But people you have to apply. You know, you want a job? Apply for the job. Now, you need to be credentialed for some jobs. Some jobs you need to be credentialed for. Or skilled for. And so that's what I was reared to understand. That if you want something, you work for it. Hi, in utero. That's how I was reared. That if you want something, you work for it. That's how it was brought up. My family never, like I was saying earlier, my family we didn't play that public assistance stuff. It's there, but we didn't play that. And we didn't down people who did. That's not for me. So it's there for a reason. Those programs exist. And you know what's interesting about it, particularly in the United States, is that there is a perception that a certain group of people access that public assistance and stuff more than others. But the data shows that like it's probably a 33 with people of different groups accessing various parts of public assistance. And then I was listening to something on NPR the other day that talked about like a lot of the homeowner programs. Those programs were not people who were non-white. Those programs were not put together for people who are non-white. Those programs were put together for people who are white. Nothing in this country has been done with a primary focus of anybody who is non-white. Those are just facts. And then we can back it all the way out. If you were a white male landowner, then programs were for you. Weren't even for women. So some of these things that women are aligning with, it just boggles my mind. Because as women, there are rights. And once one thread gets pulled, particularly from the way our Constitution is, once you pull one thread, it starts to unravel all of the others. And people think they want that, but they don't want that. They think they want it. They don't want that. So anyway, that's it. I'm on here rambling. That's my Saturday. Hey. Yep. Have an amazing Saturday. I will probably be hanging out a little bit later. You're from Poland? Hey, that's interesting. This is interesting. I've had more people from overseas on today. That's interesting. Thank you for stopping in. I'm a big Disney fan, and today is my day of kind of reflection. I'm in Texas. Today is my day of reflection. I get to be in Disney. I'm very excited. I will be at Disney in 3 weeks. I will be in Disney. So I'm excited about that. So anyway, have an amazing day. I appreciate you.